My name is Ben Rodgers and I'm a Catchment Sensitive Farming Advisor within the Derbyshire White Peak. For the last 6 years we've been working with our local farmers, looking at ways of using herbal leys as a replacement for perennial ryegrass swards, managed with nitrogen fertiliser. Hey Rusty, how you doing?
Ben.
Good to see you. Yeah,
all right, thank you.
Let's go and have a look at some of these new herbal leys then. So you're kind of around 320 cows?
Yeah, 320 cows, Holsteins, cross Friesian, aiming for a 600 kilo cow that's reasonably robust, that will stand up to grazing. We're on a full paddock grazing system, so we're on 12-hour breaks. We aim to start grazing late February, early March, on the days when the weather's good enough to not damage the ground. So we have a target of getting at least 15 days of grazing in by the end of March. That would usually just by daytimes only then. And we'll graze, the low yielder cows will go right through till early November. As we're autumn block calving, we tend to house them full time beginning of October, start calving beginning of September, so they'll be out in the day and in at night in September, and then in full time in October.
Herbal lay wise, I think it was back in 2022 you put your first one in. And
that's correct, yes. There. I just wanted to dip my toe in the water, try and get a feel for it and see how it fitted in with what we were already doing. I think this one was drilled, I think it was late July or early August.
So plenty of legumes, fixing your nitrogen, and we've got the white clover, the red clover there, there's your chicory, and your plantain, and it's burnet. Yarrow, yep, that's there.
And we've had 4 grazings now, and yes, it's 11 months ago this was sown. We use AgriNet to measure the grass growth, and from that we can see which paddocks are performing the best, or which, more importantly, which ones are performing the worst. Yeah. We use that to identify what needs a reseed.
Got you.
There's not a dramatic difference between the best and the worst.
Yes.
Probably only 2 to 3 tonnes a hectare, or average growth's probably 11 tonnes a hectare a year.
Yeah.
We probably wouldn't find anything below 9.
So in terms of how you established this, you used your tried and tested approach to your full reseeds.
My technique is to let the grass grow to a grazing cover of about 3,000 kilos of dry matter per hectare, which is about that much grass. We spray it with Roundup, about 5 litres a hectare, leave it a week for the harvest interval, and then come in and graze it with the cows. Mm-hmm. As we normally would, and as soon as they've grazed it, then we'll come in and direct drill it. Might put, depending on the lime status, we might go on with 1 ton an acre of lime, just to help the old grass break down.
You do hear stories of people who've similar approaches, and it hasn't worked, and there's that theory, isn't there, about the when the old grass breaks down, releasing acids and
that's
so on.
Right, so yeah.
The fields that you direct drill, they're quite open in the base, so then you don't have lots of thatch.
No, because we're a fairly intensive rotational grazing system, and the sward quality is all quite good. The other thing we do, we've got a big aerator roller, so we get some surface compaction from, especially when it's wet springs with the cows, and I think that's useful, trying to alleviate that, punch a bit of air back into the soil.
Just liven it up a bit.
Yeah, yes.
Because having that good, healthy soil, good soil structure, biology is quite important, particularly if you're going to direct drill into it.
Yeah.
And in terms of your sort of soil conditions for these herbal leys, generally you want good P&K indices over to pH between 6 and 7. I mean, obviously you're a dairy farm, so your soils are quite high in P&K.
Yeah. We don't put any P&K on in the fertiliser. We'll go with 1 application of 30 cube a hectare of separated slurry in the spring. That's put on with an umbilical system and trailing shoe. We've got to be careful that we don't get pHs too high on this farm. We wouldn't see anything below 6, and most around 6.5.
Yep.
You know, we're 2 miles from a limestone quarry that sells lime.
Yes.
We're surrounded by quarries, so we don't have to go far to get the lime. One of the reasons we leave it to like a 3,000 cover is any weeds that are there, any docks or thistles and stuff, that the leaf's there and they get killed with a Roundup. The other way of doing it, I suppose, is to graze it down with the cows, drill it, and then probably spray it 4 days later.
Yep.
But you don't tend to get the weed kill the same.
So you get a really good hit on any docks or anything?
Yes, so we've done that before and then found out the grass comes and the weeds come as well.
Yes.
Because we haven't had a proper hit on those, so that's why we spray it before we graze them.
Yeah, and also with the direct drilling, I guess you're keeping any other weed seeds buried?
Yes, the main thing is we're not disturbing the soil, so we're not disturbing any weed seeds. And I think that's pretty important. More so with a herbal ley, because I don't think there's any herbicides you can put on a herbal ley.
No. It's your only chance.
Yes, you've only got one chance, so yeah.
Make the most of it.
The other thing we do is, when we're in the grazing round, we pre-mow everything, starting right at the end of May. So this field was pre-mown before the cows went in and grazed it. So that's taken out. There was thistle. This is, say, was drilled 11 months ago. It had got thistles in it.
Those spear thistles?
Yeah. So going in and mowing it at this time of year takes the thistles out, and they tend not to come back again.
Yeah. So you got them just at that point, just as they're starting to flower, so
yes,
not so late that they're going to seed when they're lying on the floor, but not so early they're going to come back.
Yes, yeah, I mean you can see 1 or 2 patches in here. There's one here, this will be a thistle that was mown, the cows have left that.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah.
But generally it's really, when I saw this previously when the thistles were there, and it's really sorted it out, hasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
And then again with your direct drilling, I suppose the other thing you're doing is you're maintaining your existing soil structure, if you've got a good soil structure there.
Yes, that's the other main thing, because we tend to be quite wet here. It is, I say, it's lightish soil, but if you hit it on a wet day, you can make a mess very quickly. So the carrying capacity is a lot better. I mean, the problem if you do a full reseed, you sort of tend to, with power harrow and combi drill, the soil's quite soft and it's quite easy to chew up. So if you've direct drilled it, the soil structure's still there, and you can turn the cows, and there's a lot less chance of them damaging the sward. Yes.
Yeah. And in terms of timing for putting herbal leys in, do you have any thoughts, feelings around timing, you know, as regards factors such as soil temperature and moisture and these sorts of things? A good time to do this?
I think if you're direct drilling, it definitely needs to be when the soil's warm, so I wouldn't go too early in the spring. If you're doing a full cultivation, you're turning the soil over and the black soil absorbs the heat, so warms up faster than what you're going to have in a direct drilling situation. We'd normally start doing reseeds in early June. We ought to point out we're 1,000 foot above sea level here, so
yes, indeed.
You know, it's 2 degrees centigrade colder than most other places. So we want the soil temperature to get up. When it's growing really fast, it's hard to manage, and we'll be taking surplus cuts of silage out, and then it starts to calm down a bit more predictable this time of year, so that's when we'll start burning paddocks off and reseeding and try and phase it in. Yeah.
And you can be more sure of that temperature than
yes,
when you sort of start getting towards late August.
Yes, early August will be the latest I would do a reseed. Another reason why I like reseeding in the middle of summer, the carrying capacity is usually better on the ground.
Obviously you need good seed soil contact, so your drill has got to be punching through. There's another reason for not having too much thatch there. You've got to get your drill through to the soil. And
yeah, I mean the more uni drill that we use is pretty good at that.
And when you drill, Rusty, you drill 2 directions?
That's right, yeah, because our drill's a wider spacing. You can get more uni drills with either grassland versions with narrow spacing, or ours is the wider spacing one. So we do 2 ways, probably to, ideally at about a 30-degree angle.
And is that just to get a better...
Just to get a better coverage.
Fill?
Yeah.
And it does seem to have, I've sort of noticed before that it almost, when you do that second pass, it almost micro-cultivates it a bit more.
I mean, the uni drills, I think the disc runs at it's a 5 or 10 degree angle, so it just creates just a slight little bit of tilt and helps pull itself into the ground.
And I guess maybe just release a little bit of nitrogen in, in the process. And it just drops it in sort of shallow?
5, 10 mil. Yeah. It's an inexact science on it, but we try the best we can to get it shallow.
Yeah. And then it has the roller on the back?
It has the roller on the back, yeah. If we're not sure, we might just run over the flat roller as well.
Just to make sure it's all pressed in properly. In terms of sort of your early management, when would you, I mean, you mentioned direct drilling allows you to get the cows back on sooner. When would you typically be looking to do your sort of first graze on a reseed?
We'd probably go in, try and do a light graze when there's probably about 2,300 cover, so, you know, about half the normal amount, just give them twice the area.
Yeah.
You know, a light and fast graze is what we want on a dry day.
And just so when it's sort of rooted enough that they're not pulling it out by the...
I think it just helps it tiller out a little bit more as well.
Enough,
the growth's slightly different on the Herbal leys. I mean, certainly we direct drill everything. We've found that the chicory and plantain and clover seem to come faster than the grass on a reseed. We have tweaked the mixes and put less chicory and plantain in now. Okay. Pushing a lot of clover in certainly helps with the palatability of the grass. Now we've got a few more paddocks in, we do think we probably get a slight lift in intakes, performance when the cows are on the Herbal leys. It's a learning process for the cows and the farmer about how they behave, and
they weren't too keen on chicory at first.
No, getting a taste for it is a slightly different taste, but now they're more used to it. They seem to make a better job of grazing them out. You certainly don't get the paddocks looking as clean and even as you do with just a straight ryegrass sward that we might have had in the past.
Do you think you're starting to get used to that a bit more yourself?
Yeah, our maximum round length if we're grazing day and night is 24 days, 24 and a half days, so we don't have a lot of scope to do extended rotations. We can't, with our setup, most of my paddocks are either set for 12 hours or 24 and we just split them in two, so we don't have the flexibility to change that much. Extend. It's fairly fixed, so the chicory and plantain has to fit in with what we were doing before.
Chances.
Yes, we've been running on a 24-day rotation, which is the maximum we can do, just because it's been slow growth. So some people say 28 days is better, but we can't fit that into our system. Sometimes the chicory and plantains can if they're starting to grow faster than the grass, if you're not careful, they can start to bolt and become unpalatable. So I'd like to get them off before they get unpalatable.
Yeah.
The other slight issue we have with these paddocks is because we plate meter everything and put it on agri-net, plate metering isn't as accurate on these as it is on a ryegrass sward, so it can sometimes overestimate it a little bit. So you just have to look at it when there's getting quite a big cover, and because of chicory and plantain, certainly the chicory can get a bit stalkier, it holds the plate up more, so there's a bit of rough reckoning and maybe knock a couple of 100 kilos off.
So calibrating yourself?
Yes, definitely.
And do you think you've about
you get a feel for it, because you know when the cows go in what sort of job they make of it. They're the ultimate test of how accurate your measurement was.
And as you say, the intake seems to have gone
I think we get slightly more intake, Now, I think some of that is probably because of the clover there. I think that's possibly underestimated, you know, that how palatable feed clover is. But I'm sure, I think we do get slightly better intakes and probably slightly better milk yields.
Nitrogen wise, do you have a feeling for how much it's potentially saving your nitrogen fertiliser?
Well, I think going forward we're probably looking at putting maybe 2 doses on. We tend to go with about 30 kilos of nitrogen per hectare. So my feeling is we'll probably do the first 2, maybe 3 passes with nitrogen, and then once it warms up this time of year, let the clover do it. We think that's probably feasible. I don't think we're taking much of a knock, if any, in production. So we're just still early days, but my initial work is suggesting that that'll work.
That'll work. And so that could be, if it was 2 doses.
Yeah, that's sort of, that's less than half of what we'd normally be using. We're probably, on average, we'd be using about 150 kilos of N per hectare now. In the past, would have been nearer 200.
Got you.
But I think on the herbal leys, or even just a good grass clover ley, if we get it established right and the clover performing, I think we could be down at 60, 70 kilos of N per hectare.
So potentially saving towards 100
at least
kilos?
Yes.
And so if that was, depending on where fertiliser prices are, about £1 a kilo, it could be £100 a hectare-ish?
Yes,
So that's quite considerable, isn't it, on your platform?
It is, yes.
You've done various different approaches to seeding, to reseeds. Full reseeds, using your direct drilling method after glyphosate. You've gone in after wheat, I believe, as well.
So we direct drilled after straight into a whole crop wheat stubble. We sort of spray the stubble with a light dose of Roundup after the forage harvest has been through, just to kill any bits of weed there. And then gone straight in with a direct drill. The idea again not being to disturb any weed seeds.
Yes.
So we did 3 fields like that last year, and one we did put the muck on and combi drilled it. The combi drilled one did come a bit faster. Surprisingly, we didn't get too much trouble with the weeds either, which was a bit of a surprise, because normally we get lots of chickweed.
Yes. But not sort of the broadleaf perennials so much in the arable ground like docks and things. No. Because you've cleaned those up.
Yeah, we've cleaned those up. I mean, the one thing, the beauty of growing wheat is it's very good for getting rid of docks in grass. Some of the direct drill ones were a little bit thinner in places, but now we've done first cut, they look fine again.
Look good. And the intention on the silage ground?
We tend to keep our silage leys down for about 6-7 years, and then we'll go back into winter wheat for 2 years for whole crop, and then back to silage and some grazing for young stock.
So would you basically just however long the species in there they last, and then you'll sort of run it through to that usual 6-year point, and then go into your wheat again. You wouldn't top it up necessarily.
Probably not, no. The topping up is quite difficult. We've tried some of that, especially on the grazing ground, and I think the time is critical. I think for our limited experience of it, I think you need to go sooner in the year rather than later. And on grazing ground, I think getting the light in. So I think what's optimum, I think, is to drill it and then graze that ground, drill it at a time when you're going to be grazing it 10 to 14 days later. So say if we were on a 21-day grazing round, we'd probably want to drill it maybe 7 to 12 days after the cows had come out, so that it's another 10-14 days before they're back in again, and they take it off just as the grass, what we've drilled started to come, then the light's there and they can go through it. So we found on one field last year we did, it's one we split in half and we grazed it with young stock. So with the graze the second half, took them out, drilled it all, and the half that they grazed before, which sort of was a weak graze when it was drilled, that came okay. The other half, very poor. There was you could see there was a bit there, but not a lot. And that was probably, it'd be probably 4 weeks from when it was drilled before the cattle went back on again. And I think it suffered from that.
The overseeding does seem, as you're describing, that you've done, the ones I've seen look better on the pastures than where you tried it on the silage ground.
The silage fields we didn't have a great deal of success.
The competition is just too much. I mean the plantain, the chicory, the white clover on the pasture overseeds sort of seem to be there, but it's probably safe to say it's not as convincing as as a method.
It's not a patch on this. It's there and it's growing, but it's this is a far better way, I think, of doing it really. And it's a short-term fix really to the overseeding, but I think long-term a proper reseed is what's needed.
Do it right, basically.
Yes. To get the full benefits out of it, we probably need a full reseed.
Because levels of clover like this, when later on peak summer in August time, I think they say when you've got around about 50% ground cover of clover, that
Yeah.
that technically should be fixing equivalent of 180 kilos of
Yeah,
pasture to the hectare,
yeah.
and that's what you need, isn't
Yes,
it? You need
yeah.
production.
Yeah.
So the golden $1 million question then, Rusty, with the potential there for some nitrogen, some cost savings on nitrogen, and the increased dry matter intakes, and possibly we might be seeing some benefits in terms of milk yield. Your reseeding policy going forward, do you see a place for herbal leys, multi-species type swards within that?
Yeah, I think we're going to carry on putting multi-species swards, herbal leys in. Cost-wise, it's not a great deal of difference. They're marginally more expensive, the seed mixers. But management-wise, we're really doing the same as we were before. We're spraying off a Roundup and direct drilling. So, really the only extra hassle to me is a little bit extra for the seed. I mean, with the grass clover we were growing before, there are some sort of clover safe sprays if docks became a problem, but really if docks have become a major problem, it's the herbicides Roundup and a full reseed. So in that respect, there's not really any difference in the management.
So it's fitting quite well
Yeah,
for you
it's
at the
just
moment.
it's just a slightly different seed mix. With some potential benefits. So
What's not to like?
yeah, we might as well keep doing it. There's not really any hardship to carry on doing it.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. That's been really interesting,
Yeah.
Rusty. Thank you very much for your time.